I just finished reading Children of the Corn on the subway on the way to work. There's a reason that it has spawned an entire film franchise, and I'm going to dig into that much more when I do the adaptation correlation of the film review. But basic premise, without any spoilers because it's so well known right now, a couple that are at odds with each other already. They're on the way to California on a road trip, driving through Nebraska to try to save their marriage, and instead they end up finding this little town, or getting stranded in this little town. I'm not going to tell you how. All the adults are gone, and the children have this weird... All the adults are gone, and when they find the Bible in this old Baptist church that was turned into, their, whatever we're calling their religion now. So it's in the story that they find this Bible and the New Testament, excuse me, and the New Testament seems to be kind of cut up, but the Old Testament is still intact. And the idea of sacrifices and the old vengeful God that we see in the Old Testament. And if anyone knows the play Lonely Planet, it made me think of the Jesus Plead monologue, where so she tried to plead with him, but it was as if he went back and read the Old Testament. He didn't budge 1 inch. They basically make sacrifices and a certain age that you can't live past. That's explained through theology and through Bible quotes, but not fully as to how everything got started. These adults that would have been killed 12 years ago had they been adults in that town now find themselves stranded, and we, along with them, specifically with Bert, uncover what has happened to the town. It checks all my boxes, right? So it's beautifully written. The imagery, the style, it's easy to follow, yet it keeps you guessing. There's a level of suspense that King feeds us just enough information to keep us drawn in and going, okay, what's going to happen next? It really is a page turner. And being a short story, you can page turn it and finish it in one sitting. I didn't, but because I was making notes and highlighting and should have just read it because it's a fantastic story. So yeah, the imagery, the prose, the language, the suspenseful element, the humor, all of those things that we know and we love that keep us reading Stephen King are there. It's solidly written, it's clearly researched. God, it's the movie and the adaptation are going to be where I really start discussing this. But there's a reason, like I said, it spawned a film franchise. There's a reason that it's one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known story in this entire collection in Night Shift. And I stand by that. I don't know if it's my personal favorite, but it's definitely in the top 3. And if I look at it objectively, as opposed to, my personal taste, as a story, it may be the best written. I know I said that about another story. About, which one was it? I Know What You Need. But actually, I think this, they're neck and neck. They're kind of neck and neck. Okay, so much more discussion on the themes involved with it. Although I will say that I think, before I watch the movie and things may change, the theme to me was the idea of how religion can be a cult, how it can be scary, how we can get roped into it. Because even at the end, there's one of the kids involved kind of knows that something's wrong, and she hates this God and this thing that they're doing, but she's also afraid of it because she believes in it. And how it's seen from the outside versus the devout followers. And there's a great mirroring of this kind of lapsed, I guess, Catholic in Vicky, in our protagonist's wife, that very much has gotten out of the church, and they see these billboards with these evangelical quotes, and she's saying, no, don't want to hear that radio station, don't want to see those billboards, I had enough of it in my life. And then she's thrust head on into it. So, that was the other thing I wanted to say. Having that dichotomy really highlights the fear of what could happen if things are taken to an extreme in a cult like that. And what could happen to other people. It highlights that, and having the main characters at odds right from the very beginning of the story sets us on edge. Oh, hello, you are a beautiful puppy. Gorgeous. Sorry, puppy break. So it keeps us on edge right from the very beginning. We're going, okay, there's tension, something's going on, and then we have to deal with this on top of what we're discovering. Bravo, King. Bravo. Alright, so I just finished the last one. Uh, Heart-wrenching and alarming. If we're going to talk about the fears that Stephen King has, this inspiring his story, it has to be the fear of not being there for someone who needs you, of being so consumed in your own career. Because the protagonist, Larry, he tells us at one point that he spent his career, or his school career, his education career, and then going into his career as a lawyer, I have to study. No, I have a case, I have a meeting, I have, and I don't want to give too much away, but he was too consumed to see what was happening and help someone that he loved. One of the strengths of this story is how it's written, that we don't know exactly what's happening. Katrina, or Kitty, Larry's sister, well, that's the one thing I'll give away for you, sends him a note that had to be forwarded because she didn't have his current address, so there's a number of stamps that will cover accusations. The language choice is fantastic. I'll find that book right here. And it comes back at the end. It's at the beginning and the end. It bookends. It's superbly written. This might go up there with Children of the Corn and the one with the college kid. I Know What You Need as the best written, in my opinion. It really touches your heart. It basically says, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself because I don't want to tell you things, but I want to comment. Again, all the things that we check off for Stephen King, the imagery, the language, the word choice, the engaging plot, and what keeps it so suspenseful is that he gets a letter from Kitty. We're not sure at first who Kitty or Katrina is, and he starts remembering that night with his sister, which is a separate thing, in the barn where she fell because the ladder they used to climb up, and here's what I really wanted to comment on. We talked about with The Ledge, how the idea of heights, right? And it makes you go, just naturally. And King capitalizes on that. Well, he does the same thing here about kids climbing this ladder that's unsturdy to like 70 feet above the barn floor and then diving into this pile of hay and having to walk out there because of the pile, wavering on the beam, hoping they don't fall onto the flat panel where they would hurt themselves or would kill themselves based on how they landed. 70-foot drop between an 8 and a 10-year-old. And the ladder gives way on his sister. And she's hanging there and he has to help, and how it all happens I'm going to let you read, but that's the basic premise of the story, is a man remembering this moment in his childhood and getting new information. It firmly falls into the category of Stephen King's writing, like Shawshank Redemption, or The Body, or Apt Pupil. It is horrific in its implications and its psychological ramifications without any sort of supernatural element. And I did read that the town ties in, and apparently it's right next to, I did some research, apparently the town that he remembers his farm in, that the incident happens in Nebraska, is right next to Gateway, the Children of the Corn happens, and there's a whole link to The Stand and It, apparently, so we're getting into the seeds of the Stephen King multiverse, if you will. Extended universe, I guess, not multiverse, that's a totally different thing. Okay, my train should be coming soon. Yes, this is one of the best stories in the book. They keep getting better. Every time I think I say, I'm done, this is it, this is the story that's my favorite, another one kicks in, and they're my favorite for a different reason, whether it's the style, whether it's the resonance with me as a person. So, last rung on the ladder. Expect a moving experience, not a horrific experience, but it's, yeah. If there's anything more beautiful than springtime, it's young love. That's the last line of the story I just read, called The Man Who Loved Flowers in Night Shift by Stephen King. And I would amend to that, love is f***ing crazy. And how beautiful is this? This is the river, the spot of the river down by my house, by my apartment. This is up in the Bronx in New York. That's looking over to Washington Heights, right? Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, I started this story going, okay, I remember there's a twist to it, but I didn't remember what. it feels like it's going to be another one of like a Shawshank Redemption or Last Rung on the Ladder type story. One of these tug on your heart. It's a young man who everyone sees him as he walks down the street, and he has a half smile. He's buying flowers, and he's enamored. And you can just tell he's in love, and he expectantly goes somewhere, or he goes somewhere expectantly. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say with the proper words. There's a twist at the end I don't want to give away. If you're paying attention, something kind of catches your eye. First off, or your attention. First off, there's this juxtaposition of old people saying, "Oh, I remember when," and now we're all old, right? It's hardly anyone that's young who actually stops to comment on this man. People on the other side of life. The news was on the radio giving only unwanted things we didn't want to hear. I'll find a quote and put it there. So it's just this element of young love conquers all. And it's about this young man walking down 3rd Avenue in New York City from 63rd up to 73rd, turning on 73rd, ending up in a back alley, and something happens. Stylistically, I really enjoy it. It keeps you guessing. You're wondering, why are we sticking with this? Because it's very romantic. There's a ton of there's people swimming in the river. I wouldn't get in that river. So he turns down the alley, and it's highly romanticized, and you know that you're being sappied to and set up in some way, and it's a little too obvious. Although the story, it is what's required for the story. I don't fault King at all for that. I'm just not sure if it went on too long, if it didn't go on long enough where we became used to it, the way that we know he can do with the height situation in Last Rung on the Ladder, right? Because we get up there and we're up there enough over and over again that we forget we're up high until suddenly, bam, it's important again. And it's not, he has that skill, and he didn't do that in this with the romantic language. He didn't shy away from it. But then the language turns on a dime when the twist happens. It's very appropriate to the story, the semantics of it all, the imagery of it all. So in that respect, it's well written, but it also kind of glares at you and says, haha, look at how intelligent I was when I wrote this. And it takes place in 63. I wonder how young he was when he wrote this, if it was closer to 1963. He would have still been a teenager then, I think. 47, right? Yeah, he would have still been a young teenager. I'm sure he didn't write this quite that young, but I wonder. Or maybe that's just because there's a reference to Vietnam. Maybe that's the entire reason he said it in 1963, so he could put Vietnam on the radio and have them mispronounce the name because it was a new thing. Yeah, so it really sets like the idea of we're in pleasant, peaceful times, and then it just turns, and it's a little obvious, and it's fun. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not a fun story. It's enjoyable. I just think there could have been a little more subtlety in how the juxtaposition was presented for us. But going to what King fears, right? We always try to frame these things, and King writes about what he is afraid of. I imagine he saw someone walking down the street, going, da-da-da-da-da, and thinking, oh, that man's in love. Or he's crazy. Which is it? And he wrote a story.